Okay, so we've established that if I am given m and b, I can write the equation at line. So example, if I have m equals 4 and b equals 5, I can write y equals 4x plus 5. That would be the equation of a line that has a slope of 4 and the y-intercept of b. All right, so we're going to talk about how to identify the slope and the y-intercept so that we can write this equation if we are given a graph. All right, so you will have a graph of a line, and then you're going to have to write the equation of what this line would be. All right, so here are the basic two steps you need to do. One, you need to identify the slope of a line, and you need to identify the y-intercept. So y-intercept and slope. Now the y-intercept is going to be given to you on the graph. You should be able to see it if given a graph, if it's a whole number. So that would be almost like the first thing I would do. And then you're going to do, I should probably reverse these steps. And then you're going to identify the slope of that line. There's two ways that we can identify the slope. One is using the slope formula, where we identify 2 points, or we count the rise of the run of the graph. For today, I'm going to be focusing on this, so we can calculate what it is, and we're going to talk. And this is kind of review from previous sections, but we're going to do some examples so you can follow this lead. All right, so if I'm looking at this, and again, I'm going to start with number 2. I probably should have put that in reverse. Maybe I'll change it for later, but for now, we're going to stick with it. So the easiest thing is to be able to identify where this line crosses that y-axis. So right here, here's our origin right here, because here's our x-axis. We can see that b equals 3. So 1, or actually it's equals 2. So this is incorrect. So I'm going to say if I go up 2, b equals 2. So now the other thing I need to identify is my m. So what is my m going to be? Well, let's figure that out. So if I know that my b is 2, and I look for another known point on this graph, you can see that this is a known point because it's at the intersection. Here's another known point. All right. So remember that our m is our rise over our run, meaning up or down. So up would be positive, down would be negative, or our left and our right and our left. So where our right is positive and our left is negative. So if I draw a triangle from one point to the next, with this being my hypotenuse, if I go from here to this level, that is up 2. So that's a plus 2. That's going to be the top number of my m. So I have a 2. My run would be to the right 1, so that would be my bottom number. So m equals up 2, positive 2, and a positive 1, or we can just call this 2. So once I've identified those two pieces, just like we did the day before, where if I have my m and my b, now I can write the equation. That's all I do. I just write the equation. Y equals 2x, and then a positive 2 for my b. And that, not positive b, positive 2 for my y-intercept. So this is my equation for that line. I can now put my inputs and outputs in, or manipulate this, or use this equation to solve for a word problem, which we will be getting into. All right, the next page is just practice on these problems. So we are going to use these equations of lines. Go ahead and pause this and try to do it yourself by identifying m and b, and then writing the equations of that line. All right, so here would be number 1. I'm going to identify my m, and I'm going to identify my b. Again, I think it's easier to identify your b, because if we look at this, our b is right here, and that b is at 0. Now we need to find another point where they meet at an intersection, and that would be right here on this line. All right, at point 1, 3. So now I'm going to calculate the slope. I go from here to here. I got to go up 1, 2, 3. So my top number is 3. And I go to the right 1. So 1 is my bottom number. So then the equation of this line will be y equals 3x plus 0. Or, in this case, you can just say y equals 3x. All right, assume that that 0 is there. And again, 3 over 1, if you put 3 over 1 for this, that's okay. But 3 over 1 is the same as 3, so we can do that. All right, so number 2. Let's go ahead and put a dot on our y-intercept. So that is our b. Our b is at positive 1. Now we have to solve for our m. So I'm looking for another known point where they are right on an intersection. Looks like it's all the way down here. This one's close, but it's not quite on it. And you know, in these computer generator, if I make them myself, it might be a little off, but let's go to here because that's our next known point. All right, so now I'm going to count from one point to the next. So I go 1, 2, 3 spaces down, so that's -3. That's going to be my top number. And then how many spaces am I going over? So I go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a positive 5 because it's to the right 5. So my equation for this line will be y equals -3/5 x and a positive 1 for our y-intercept. All right, getting the point, getting the hang of this. All right, so again, I'm going to start with identifying what my b is. My b equals, or my b crosses at this point right here, which is 1, 2, positive 2. And I need to figure out what my slope is going to be. This one, it appears to be here. I also have a point here. So again, between any of the 2 points, however you want to do this. So my m equals, let's go ahead and count our up and our down points. So I like to go from left to right, so I might go from this point to this point. You could go from this point to this point. Just remember, if you're going down here and to the left, those would both be negatives. So I'm going to go up. How many spaces do I go up? 1, 2, 3. So that's a positive 3 on the top. And I go to the right 1, which would be a positive 1 on the bottom. So that's +3, +1. Remember, this is our top number. This is our bottom number of the fraction. I have my slope and my y-intercept, so now I can write the equation. Y equals 3x positive 2. All right, last example. Again, pause these and then try them on your own and then see how you do. So I have my b is at this point. So I'm going to write that down. So b is at 1, 2, 3, positive 3. All right. And I'm going to put another known point. Ooh, these are a little bit more tricky. So I'm going to go to here on this known point. It looks like it could be there, but when I go down, you know, if I go up 2 spaces, it's pretty close, but it's not quite there. If you did choose that one and you went up 2 to the right 1, it'd probably be fine. But I'm going to go down to this one. All right. So now I have to figure out what my m is based on counting my spaces. So if I go again from left to right, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's +5. That's the number that's on the top. And I go to the right 1, 2, 3. That's a positive 3 because I went to the right. So 3 on the bottom. So my equation would be y equals 5 over 3x plus 3. All right. So again, this section is to be able to identify your b, identify your slope between 2 points, and then write them, or write the equation of that line the equation that this line represents.